Hi guys, Robert here from Yalumba, sitting at Percy's, where many of you have no doubt stayed and have tales to tell. But I'm here just to talk to you about our Viognier project and what our expectations are and why we really believe in Viognier. In fact, it's going to be a very short vintage this year, and next week I know we're picking our Viognier from the hills. So it's a good time to just come out and express my views and remind you about what's inherently beautiful about Viognier and Yalumba's Viognier program. Viognier, it's exotic. I remember seeing it early days and wondering really what sort of wine it was and what was exciting about it, and you do tend to look into the eyes of it more often than you would a mature, well-known baby, but a new baby you look at earnestly. And to me it had really layers of luxury and exotic fruits that you don't see in other grapes. Viognier is very specific. It owns its own space, and as a lot of people have said in the past, it is the red wine drinker's white wine. It is full-bodied, it's full throttle. And for us, it's been full of challenges with it as well. So as exciting as the journey's been, it has provided enormous challenges intellectually for our wine people and vineyard management in getting to a style that I think delivers at every level. I think it must have been in our blood, or our water, I should say, that we understood that what was going to sustain Barossa wines were wines that came from a Mediterranean climate. And to impose, fashion and personal philosophy on a landscape, really, whilst it might have a short-term aberration and an upside, it wasn't something sustainable. So I think in terms of Barossa flora and also Eden Valley, we understood that these sorts of varietals that produce wines of quality with personality in warmer Mediterranean environs were the styles that were worth persisting with, even though they weren't in the fashion stakes at the time. If we were looking to be popular, we certainly didn't make it easy for ourselves, because there's a number, and it might be wrong by 25 or 50%, but it wouldn't matter. But when we planted Viognier in 1980, the global plantings of Viognier were down to something like 50 hectares. So it was an exotic grape that very few people understood. It was interplanted in the northern Rhone in Côte Rôtie, and was allowed by law to be part of the red wine style up there, as long as it wasn't more than 15%. But instead of vinifying independently, they fermented with the Shiraz grape. So we saw there's a family linkage around working Viognier as a white grape and Shiraz red grape together. But we persisted with this, and then subsequently, I suppose, people pick up on things, points of difference, not just wanting to be a stereotype. And, Viognier since has been popularly planted in California, North and Southern California. There's Viognier plantings in New Zealand, particularly in the North Island. And France, it's picked up again, where it's released as varietal and a blend. And of course, there's a lot of Viognier planted in Australia. So really, we're at the front end of a wave. We had, and today still have, a leadership position. And we are the voice of Viognier in Australia. And I think, for any winery to have that linkage with one aspect of the market is something you aspire to, and when you get there, you don't bloody well let it go. I suspect we have a little, and this is what we're wanting to refocus on. And so if you mention Viognier, people will say Yalumba. You mention Yalumba, people should say Viognier. They certainly do in other markets in the world, whether it's Quebec, London, New York, Yalumba and Viognier belong together, whereas funnily enough, it's sort of dissipated somewhat in this country, and I think that's our fault. The reality is in this country now, imported wines are going through the roof. In my life, imports have never been more than 3 or 4% market share. Now they're up to 20. And there's a lot of wine being drunk in this country that is Viognier, but isn't on the label because it's coming in under the French appellation and labelling laws. And same for Albarino, Sauvignon, all the other exotic varietals from around Europe. So why can't Viognier be part of that reawakening, but doing it from our side rather than the European side? And all this laneway culture that's opening up, in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, it is happening. And the little wine bars that are putting wines in front of people that they clearly would have no idea what they're drinking, but there's good margin in it. Viognier is there. It can be there. It's exotic. It isn't flogged mercilessly in the retail trade, and it's a genuinely good drink. So I think it's a matter of a reawakening. It's a reawakening and a rediscovery of something that clearly Australia can do well, but Yalumba does better than anybody else and has that voice that belongs to it. It is a niche, and sometimes niches aren't very big. But, this is a niche that we own, and I think it's a matter of us just believing in it, understanding it, and communicating it. There's a great narrative around it, and it's a damn good wine. So the opportunity is there, and it's something we've got to challenge ourselves with and just go and do it. Now, you can't force feed people all the time. In the end, having done all the hard work, people mightn't go there. But at the moment, we don't even know. We're not even tackling it. So this is the challenge.